Good evening. My name is Joseph Costa. I'm president of the Durfee Alumni Association. I'm class of 1981, and welcome to our annual meeting. First, I'd like to call upon our committee member, Paul De Silva, to join us in our Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing while we sing the national anthem performed by the Durfee Orchestra. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Once again, welcome. I'd like to introduce some of the members that are here that are distinguished alumni from the past. If they would stand when I call their name. Dr. Ronald Schwartz, class of 52. Dr. Mel Yokin, class of 56. And attorney Peter Collius, class of 49. Welcome. Introducing our stage tonight, our distinguished alumni and their introductor. Over on the left is going to be Joshua Ostroff. Please stand. His mom. Stand right up, please. We'll take care of you. That's Elaine Ostroff, class of 51. Dr. Joel Potash, class of 54. And his introducer will be his daughter, Rachel Todoroff. How do I do? Please. Our second row will be Danny Quintel Jr. He's with the Scholarship Association. Please stand. Jason Gray, he's the vice principal here at Durfee. Dr. Amy Bronhardt, the assistant superintendent. And the esteemed mayor of Fall River, Mayor Paul Coogan. And lastly, all the students should know is Matt Damaris, our principal. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Our meeting is broken down into 3 segments tonight. The fastest will be our business meeting. And to start it off is going to be the reading of our treasurer's report. I have a motion to waive the reading. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor? Excellent. At this time, we'd like to read the minutes from last year's annual meeting. Do I have a motion? I have a motion to waive the reading. How about a second? And a second. All in favor? Aye. We'll waive the meeting for minutes from last year's annual meeting. We'd like to also name Colonel Ronald Sylvia, class of 54, as an honorary member. This is coming from the nomination committee. And Denise Ward, class of 71, will be a new board member for us as well. Okay. This is my last annual meeting, and the reign of terror will end. Lisa Landry, Lisa Cousinets will be the new president. Kristen Gorvin will be her assistant VP. Our treasurer will still be Charlotte Thomas. Our secretary will be Judith Conrad. And at this time, I'd like to ask our secretary to make one motion to pass that slate of nominees for nominating. Are there any other motions or nominees from the floor? And not hearing any, Madam Secretary? Thank you, Madam Secretary. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. We are done with our business meeting. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Daniel Quintel with the Scholarship Association to give the annual report.
Good evening. On behalf of the trustees of the Fall River High School Alumni Scholarship, we welcome all past and present Hilltoppers, distinguished alumni, scholarship recipients, and supporters of this great event. My name is Daniel Quintel, and I have the pleasure of representing the trustees tonight. The other 5 trustees are Lisa Raich, Amy Brownhard, Barry McDonald, Claudine Cloutier, and Peter Coleus, our longest tenured member. The committee would like to thank John Fryer for his many years of service on the board. John Fryer is a member of the class of 1960 and served as a trustee for 9 years. Unfortunately, due to health complications, John was forced to step down from his role this past year. We wish him and his family the best moving forward. The trustees are pleased to report a significant increase in applicants this year. In total, the trustees had the privilege of interviewing 86 applicants. Each and every applicant had numerous accomplishments and achievements which are recognized by our committee. The trustees would like to thank every member of the Durfee High School staff, including the guidance department, the teachers, and the support staff who guided the students to apply for the Alumni Scholarship. The class of 2024 includes 32 individuals who will receive a scholarship tonight, with a reward amount totaling over $101,000 per year, by far the most the trustees have given to a graduating class. Our scholarship funds, under the guidance of Richard Wilson, have surpassed the $16 million mark. Through the numerous donations from our community, we are able to make a difference in the continued education of our current Durfee students. Among the new additions to our named funds are as follows. The trustees received over $477,000 to establish a new scholarship in the name of Isabel Capito and to add to a scholarship previously established in honor of Isabel's sister, Beatrice Capito. The daughter of Azorean immigrants and a lifelong resident of Fall River, Isabel was a graduate of B.M.C. Durfee High School, class of 1948, the St. Anne's School of Nursing, and the Providence College. She served in the U.S. Cadet Nursing Corps during World War II while still a teenager. She retired from St. Anne's Hospital as a registered nurse and assistant hospital administrator. Isabel authored more than 24 novels and was a regular contributor of short stories to such popular publications as Alfred Hitchcock Magazine and Sir Magazine. Thank you to the Capito family for your continued overwhelming support. Jim Driscoll, the fund's accountant, has contributed to 2 named funds in honor of his grandfathers. $5,000 has been donated to establish the T. Arthur McCann Memorial Scholarship, class of 1924. After graduating from Durfee High School, T. Arthur McCann worked his entire career in the mills of Fall River. In spite of the Depression, he put all 5 of his children through college and was the proud grandp of 15 grandchildren. The second named fund is honor of George F. Driscoll Memorial Scholarship, Class of 1919. Mr. Driscoll retired as the presiding judge of the 2nd District Court in 1970 after serving 10 years. He was also elected to the State House of Representatives from the 10th Bristol District in 1932. Mr. Driscoll, thank you. Colonel Ronald Silva, United States Air Force, retired, class of 1954, and Diane J. Sylvia. Mr. Sylvia retired as a colonel in the Air Force after 31 years of service. He was awarded the Legion of Merit and the Distinguished Flying Cross, among many other medals, during his time in the service. Diane's daughter, Vicky, graduated from Durfee in 1986 and is a past recipient of the scholarship. Will the Sylvia family please stand? Thank you. A new fund has been established, the Angelo and Millie Stavros Scholarship. Angelo's class of 1951 was a math teacher at Durfee High School. He later became vice principal of Morton Middle School and the principal at Cuss. He was a graduate of Bradford Durfee College of Technology, which is now the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, and a graduate of Bridgewater State College with a master's degree. Mr. Stavros was a United States Navy veteran of the Korean War. Angelo's wife of 69 years, Millie Stavros, graduated from Durfee High School, class of 1948. She was a graduate of Bryant College and Roger Williams College. She was a teacher for the Fall River School Department. Thank you, Carolyn Sunnison. Ada Jackson Wilder Scholarship has been increased by an additional $5,000. The total in the fund is now $25,000. Ada had wonderful experiences at Durfee and was the recipient of a generous alumni scholarship herself. After college, she taught in Fall River and beyond. Andrew J. Borden Scholarship Fund has been increased by an additional $7,300 in funds. The fund is now over $181,000. Thank you for your considerations. Additional funds were added to the Robert A. Richard and Patricia L. Richard Memorial Scholarship in memory of Richard's sister, Ann Meisel. Ann attended Bridgewater State College and later graduated from Youngstown State University. She was employed as a social worker, most recently at Belmont Pines Hospital in their partial hospitalization program, then retiring in 2017. We thank you for your continued support. The Honorary Edward Harrington continues to provide a generous donation in support of his family's scholarship. The John J. and Elizabeth C. Harrington Memorial Scholarship Fund has now reached $135,000. Michael Duart again added to the scholarship named in honor of his wife, Ann Billcliffe Duart, class of 1971, and her sister, Ruth Melnick Bickliffe, class of 1972. Mr. Duart, please stand. Thank you. Paul B. Grozen, class of 1950 scholarship, was established by his sister, Deborah Bieri. Mr. Grozen was recognized as a distinguished alumnus in 2022. During Paul's 30 years of service, he was awarded numerous commendations, the highest being the Legion of Merit and Defense Superior Service Medal. Paul served as Defense and Naval Attaché to the Netherlands. Thank you, Deborah. In 2017, Brendan Rocket was awarded an alumni scholarship. With his tragic passing in 2019, a fund in his name was established. This year, additional funds have been added to honor Mike Rocket. Thank you for your continued support. The Alumni Association added $5,000 to bring their fund total to over $227,000. Thank you. Harold R. Bannister Fund contributed an additional $6,184. Thank you for your continued support. To the trustees of the Fall River High School Alumni Scholarship have a remarkable and extended record of giving back to the very best and brightest Durfee students in the city. Recipients, please remember and appreciate the generosity given to you by the many members of our community across many years of Durfee pride. Please keep in mind, this generosity also brings a responsibility to represent not only yourselves and your family, but the community in which you grew up in. Fall River is a special place with a long, prosperous history. At some point in time, in the future, Fall River will call upon you and your peers to donate your time, your energy, and your leadership to continue to make B.M.C. Durfee High School the shining star it truly is. On behalf of the trustees, we wish you the best of luck in your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quintel, on behalf of the Alumni Scholarship Fund. At this time, please warmly welcome the Honorable Paul E. Coogan, class of 1971, as he gives some words of wisdom to our scholarship award winners.
I don't know if there's any really words of wisdom to give to these kids going out to colleges all across the country. In Durfee terms, this is one of our special days of the year where the kids that have excelled, work hard, and been the model of Durfee students across the country get their scholarships tonight because of the great, great work of the Alumni Association compiling all this money. This is like, as I said, every year at Durfee, we acknowledge the hard work of kids across the spectrum in our graduating class. This is another fine example. Obviously, everybody here tonight wants to thank the parents, the staff, the orchestra, and especially the kids getting the scholarships, because they're the examples of what Durfee pride is, and they'll carry that message forward. Thank you all for coming on tonight, and let's get to awarding the kids.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, Dr. Amy Bronhart has some words for the superintendent's office.
Thank you. On behalf of Superintendent Ponce, who could not be here this evening due to some family commitments, I want to send our heartfelt congratulations to all of our seniors and your families for your continued efforts to rise above and shine in your efforts here at the high school. As also a trustee, I can speak to the fact that it was a very difficult challenge this year to identify the students for the scholarships, because all of you have demonstrated such a commitment to not only the Durfee school community, but also the Fall River community at large. And just to echo what Mayor Coogan noted, always remember, once a hilltopper, always a hilltopper. And by living that and breathing that, you'll never go wrong. Be kind, be generous, and be patient with yourself, because the future is going to bring ups and downs, but you absolutely have the skills to accomplish your dreams. Go off and do great things, but don't forget where you came from.
Thank you, Doctor. And now, Principal Matt Damaris, class of 89.
Good evening, everyone. Students, pay attention to what you're hearing tonight, particularly when our distinguished alumni get to the podium and share their stories. Your story may one day be told on this stage. I never imagined that I'd be principal of my alma mater, but here I am in my 7th and final year as principal, and I couldn't be prouder. We're in a brand new building. You folks are thriving each and every day. It doesn't matter the building, though. It's the spirit of Durfee High School. Take a look at this program you were given when you get home later on and really look at it. It represents something that is very deep and profound, and I don't know if there's another high school in North America or in the world, a public high school, that has such an endowment. This endowment says that Fall River cares about you, that Fall River believes in you, and Fall River wants to see you succeed. And as Mr. Quintel asked earlier, make sure you give back. Someday you may be in a position to give the scholarship that you're given tonight right back to the Alumni Association. And wouldn't that be something? Whether that happens or not, you make us proud each and every day. And thank you for being Hilltoppers. Thank you, everyone.
Our next speaker is Mr. Jason Gray, Vice Principal here at Durfee, class of '90, and will prepare our students while he introduces our scholarship award winners. We'll take up when he's ready to go.
Okay, it's an honor to be here tonight. We're going to ask that you hold your applause till the end. We do have 32 recipients that we're so proud of. The first scholarship is the Edward Borden Jennings Scholarship and Paul B. Grazin, class of 1950 Scholarship. And that is awarded to Fahim Azimi, who will be attending MIT in the fall. The Francis L. Charlotte G. Gregani and Colonel Ronald Silva, U.S. Air Force retired Scholarship, the Class of 1954 Scholarship, and the Diane J. Sylvia Scholarships are awarded to Daniel Baez, who will be attending UMass Amherst. The Wilfred K. and Ruth Hunsinger Bradbury Memorial Scholarship, an Armand D. Allaire Scholarship, and Deborah A. Eckersley Memorial Scholarships are awarded to Naya Boone, who will be attending Bridgewater State University. The John J. and Elizabeth C. Harrington Memorial Scholarship Fund is awarded to Abigail Carrero, who will be attending Stonehill in the fall. The John E. Kiley Scholarship, Memorial Scholarship, and John J. Marion C. Toot Scholarships are awarded to Eli Chase, who will be attending Bridgewater State University. The S. Peter Corey and Rose Corey Scholarship is awarded to Emily Coelho, who will be attending LSU in the fall. The Harold and H. Iris Katzman Scholarship and Faust D. and Muriel S. Fiore Scholarships are awarded to Abigail Comstock, who will be attending UMass Lowell. The Robert Adams Clark Scholarship, Class of 1929 Scholarship, and Annie Edward Clark Scholarship, Class of 1931 Scholarship, and Cora E., Irene C., and Mildred F. Wild Scholarships are awarded to Faith Cadero, who will attend Suffolk University. The Reverend Arthur C. Lenahan Memorial Scholarship is awarded to Emily Curran, who will attend Worcester State University in the fall. The Jean E. Violet Scholarship and Alumni Scholarship are awarded to Olivia DeMello, who will attend Suffolk University. The Thomas W. Newberry Scholarship, Class of 1933 Scholarship, and Robert E. Newberry Scholarship, the Class of 1939 Scholarship, and the Durfee Class of 1964 Scholarships are awarded to Andrew Doucette, who will be attending Worcester Polytech Institute. The Domka Mislanka Sties Scholarship, the Class of 1941 Scholarship, are awarded to Tessa Doobie, who will be attending the University of New Hampshire. An anonymous scholarship, and B.M.C. Durfee Athletic Association Robert J. Nagel Scholarship, and Joseph B. Diadamo Class of 1939 Scholarships are awarded to Gabrielle Farias, who will attend Syracuse University. The Class of 1959 Scholarship, 58 Scholarship, the Brendan S. Rocket Scholarship, and the Honorable George F. Driscoll Memorial Scholarship, Class of 1919 scholarships are awarded to Diane Farouk, who will be attending Johns Hopkins University. The Carlton M. Viveris Scholarship and Alumni Scholarships are awarded to Julia Hargraves, who will be attending Southern Connecticut State University. The Helen G. and John M. Lawler Scholarship and Henrietta Morse Scholarship and the Class of 1938 Scholarship are awarded to Maya Hippolyte, who will be attending Salve Regina University. The James S. Pano Scholarship, an Angelo and Millie Stravo Scholarship are awarded to Theodore De Silva Lee, who will be attending BU in the fall. The Margaret Chase Memorial Scholarship is awarded to Rachel Lima, who will be attending Tufts in the fall. The Harold S.R. and Marion E. Buffington Scholarship, and John N. Peters, Class of 1960 Scholarship, and Arthur A. Poulos, Class of 1946 Scholarship, and T. Arthur McCann Memorial Scholarship, and Class of 1924 Scholarship, and the Andrew J. Borden Scholarships are awarded to Cameron Latenda, who will be attending Stonehill. The Harold R. Bannister Scholarship in memory of James, Edward, and Catherine Manning Bannister Scholarship is awarded to Emma McDonald, who will attend USC. The John J. and Elizabeth C. Harrington Memorial Scholarship Fund is awarded to Haley Mello, who will attend Providence College. The John J. and Elizabeth C. Harrington Memorial Scholarship is awarded to Isabel Mello, who will attend Sacred Heart. The Israel and Ethel C. Brayton Scholarship is awarded to Adelawa Alabano. who will be attending Tufts in the fall. The Philip S. Brayton Scholarship and Bruce O. Hawes in memory of Richard K. Hawes Sr. scholarships are awarded to Chloe Pacheco, who will attend Boston College. The Reverend James H. Hornsby and Dr. Joan R. Hornsby Scholarship is awarded to Khaleesi Paredes, who will attend BCC in the fall. The class of 1941 scholarship and Caesar Nobrega Memorial Scholarship and Cardinal Humberto S. Medeiros class of 1937 scholarships are awarded to Nathan Parent, who will attend Wentworth Institute of Technology. The Dorothy Ellen Wolstenholme Memorial Scholarship is awarded to Julia Raposa, who will be attending the University of Tampa. The Isabel Capito Scholarship is awarded to Kaylin Raposa, who will attend Providence College. The Helen A. Mislanka, Colonel, U.S. Air Force, class of 1945 scholarship is awarded to Leah Rodriguez, who will be attending Northeastern University. The Ernest Baruti Memorial Scholarship and Clinton W. Walker Scholarship, 1935, in memory of Eleanor Ferguson Walker, class of 1939. Scholarships are awarded to Keith Strong, who will attend the University of New Haven. The Ada Jackson Wilder Scholarship is awarded to Ishel Zara, who will be attending Georgetown University. The Anne and Philip Potash Memorial Scholarship and Tom Wong Scholarship are awarded to Happy Zhang, who will be attending the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth. Congratulations to all recipients. If parents would like to come up and take pictures, this is a perfect time to do so.
Woo, go Abby! Another. Woo! And Tessa. And Rachel. And Adun. And Leah. Oh, and Andrew.
At this time, the Durfee High Orchestra, under the direction of Nicole Turgeon, conductor, will entertain us with a piece.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Thank you, Conductor Turgeon and the orchestra for that beautiful musical rendition. At this time, what brings our past distinguished alumni members to our present, our scholarship winners, is Joel Ostroff, who will introduce his mom, Dr. Elaine Ostroff, class of 51.
Hello, my name is Joshua Ostroff. I did not have the good fortune to go to Durfee High School, but I wish I had. But an amazing cadre of students you have, and an incredibly supportive alumni association. So good evening to parents, guests, Your Honor, the class of 2024, and our fellow awardee. I'm representing Joyce Rodriguez of the class of 1962, a member of the Alumni Association who was so kind to nominate my mother, Elaine. She nominated Elaine as a longtime champion of civil rights and accessibility for people with disabilities. My mom's story and life work are especially relevant today, 70 years after the Supreme Court decision in the 1954 case Brown versus Board of Education, maintaining that separate is not equal. Elaine was born and raised in Fall River. At Durfee High School, she excelled in academics and sports and was voted in her senior year as the best all-around student. If you have the opportunity to take a look at the yearbook, you'll be as impressed as I was with all of her achievements. Some of her activities were editor of the Hilltop, staff of the yearbook, varsity basketball, captain of the softball team, and winner of the competition to design a new uniform for the Durfee cheerleaders. After graduation, she continued her education at Brandeis University with a Bachelor of Science and later a Master's in Education at Harvard. Just personally, I'd like to thank the Alumni Association for recognizing my mom, who's always been my civic hero and inspiration for so many things that I've been able to do in life. I hope to all of you in the class of 24 that you also have role models whose behavior and achievements you want to emulate as you go forward and make change in the world. I'd like to turn the microphone over to my mom for some remarks. And here you go. And I'm going to see that this presentation works. With apologies to the folks behind who may not have such a good view. But
okay, let me just get here. Can I just test this? Does this work? Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for this honor. Durfee High School was an extraordinary time in my life that I remember fondly. I remember my teachers, I remember my classmates. I think I remember more about Durfee than I did about college, so I appreciate this honor. It was a formative period in my life. I learned to find and use my voice here. In fact, it was a launching point for my career in making change. At Durfee, I learned to ask questions and to challenge conventions. For example, I claim the institution of senior skip day. So when you cut classes, think of me. Durfee also instilled in me a love of teams. My favorite subject was gym. For example, I played on the girls' basketball team. Now, as a guard, we didn't shoot, and the guards just played on a half court. And things are so different today, but Miss Frost, Virginia Frost, was my gym teacher, and gym was my favorite subject. To share a little bit about my life, my mother, Doris, was one of 4 children who, of Ella and Boris Levin. They lived in Russia, which is Vitebsk, and it's now Belarus. To escape persecution after the Russian Revolution, the family fled on the Trans-Siberian Railroad and settled for a time in Harbin, China. My grandfather, Boris, was killed somewhere on the Mongolian border. So as a young widow, my grandmother brought my mother Doris, my Uncle Lou, and my Uncle Joe, my Aunt Lillian to America, settling in Fall River. Doris married Barney Phillips, my dad, whose family was the Fall River Glass Company. And every time, I still remember the phone ringing at 5:30 in the morning. "Oh, can you come down? The McQuarries, Cherry and Webb's, the big windows were out." And whenever there was a storm, the phone started ringing. But we're on the subject of my family. My grandmother was an extraordinary presence in my life. She lost her sight and her hearing. We called her Bubby, and we communicated with her by writing on her arm. Now, she was quite remarkable, because some of my family could write in English, and others could write in English, but she understood everything. While we were on the subject of family, the love of my life was Earl, my husband, who graduated in '49. We were married in '53, where I was still in college and he was in the Army, but we figured out if we got married, I think he got more money. Anyway, it was pretty sweet. We had a loving marriage until he died in 2006. We have 3 children, Becky, Sam, and Josh, and I'm here with Josh and his wife Jean, who were very important in my life. After graduating from Durfee in '51, I enrolled in the 4th graduating class at Brandeis University, where I was entrepreneurial, curious, made many lifelong friends, honed a passion for civil rights, and I learned how to chop onions because I worked in the kitchen. Now, I didn't realize what onions do to your hands. It was very embarrassing. After that first time, my hands really smelled. Anyway, while raising our children at Brandeis, I was fortunate to meet somebody who happened to have been married to the President of the United States, Eleanor Roosevelt. What a gracious lady she was. And I think the technology wasn't very good, because on the radio she had kind of a shrill voice, but in person she was this mellow, lovely woman. And she came to our dorm, which we had named Roosevelt House, because we were kind of influenced and impressed with Franklin Roosevelt, and I cooked dinner for her. That was quite remarkable. I didn't know enough to be nervous. While raising our 3 children in Providence, Rhode Island, I co-founded a participatory theater company. We called it Looking Glass Theater. I was inspired by a terrible performance where I had taken my children and they were kind of like reading the script and everybody was really wooden. And I thought, that's terrible. Children's theater should have energy and enthusiasm. So I co-founded a company and a woman. At that time, I was negatively impressed by someone who kept shushing the children, in the audience. And I said, that's not what children's theater should be. So I knew that children deserved something more. And Looking Glass Theater provided children and their parents with opportunities for creative participation and with performances in and among children that encouraged participation. And it wasn't just reciting lines, but it made the action really happen. So in the early 1970s, I attended the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and from there, I worked for the state, the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health, and it was a time of deinstitutionalization, when they suddenly realized that keeping people locked up in institutions wasn't going to help them. And I was part of that thing they called deinstitutionalization. And I primarily worked with staff to help them understand that these were human beings. And they had feelings, they had emotions, and they had intelligence. And I didn't know what I didn't know, but boy, was I passionate. So later, in the 1960s, with the focus on civil rights and justice, we came to believe that disability rights was also civil rights. And defending civil rights is a struggle that continues to this day. Sit-ins, marches, civil disobedience helped pave the way for this transformation. And today, we generally understand that rights for people with disabilities benefit all of us. I know that to solve persistent problems, it takes more than one person. It takes a team. And creating teams has really been my life's work. Good ideas need people with different skills, different perspectives to make things work. I learned to solve problems that are so ingrained, we needed to connect with educators, architects, engineers, designers, anyone who had a role in the built environment. To help this happen, I co-founded an organization in Boston. We called it the Adaptive Environment Center. Its new name is the Institute for Human-Centered Design. It was an extraordinary time, that deinstitutionalization process, where people with disabilities were really recognized as individuals that had potential. We need design competitions. We led design competitions to create thoughtful solutions to complex challenges. I edited the Universal Design Handbook to help elevate the practice of a built environment that works for everyone. I have been privileged to be among a worldwide cohort of professionals, educators, and activists with a passion for inclusion. This work was recognized in 2004 in England with the Misha Black Award for Excellence in Design Education and an honorary degree from an American university, Melbourne, and 2018. The signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, in 1990, and the years of activism before and the ongoing work since are part of our continuing history to help ensure that we all have the opportunity to reach our potential, and all that started in Fall River. I am very grateful to my teachers and fellow students at Durfee. Everyone should have a place where they feel welcome and can excel. And if we don't have that place, we can make one. It's always a pleasure to be here in Fall River. Thank you so much for this honor. Take me away.
Let me introduce Kristen Gorvin, the Assistant Athletic Director at Durfee High School, as well as committee member for the Alumni Association, to give a special presentation also to Dr. Ostroff.
That's hard to follow. As a Durfee alum, a former athlete, and the first female in an athletic director position in Durfee history, it is my honor to speak about Aline Phillip Ostroff's athletic accomplishments while at Durfee. In a time long before Title IX and equal opportunities, the remarkable female athletes of the 1950s exemplified dedication, perseverance, and excellence in their respective sports, paving the way for future generations of women in athletics. Despite facing adversity and limited opportunities, they broke barriers, shattered stereotypes, and left a lasting legacy in the world of sports. Their dedication, talent, and resilience continue to shape the landscape of sports and pave the way for a more inclusive and equitable future. During Miss Ostroff's time at Durfee, she was a member of the Girls Numeral Club, JV basketball, varsity basketball, sophomore basketball coach, and softball, where she served as a 3-year captain. On behalf of Durfee Athletics, I would like you to have these Durfee Ds as a token of our appreciation from all former Durfee athletes, female Durfee athletes, who came after you.
Thank you, Kristen. At this time, I'd like to introduce Rachel Todoroff, who will introduce her father, Dr. Joel Potash.
I've been asked to introduce the amazing Joel Potash, known to thousands as Dr. Potash, but known to me as Dad. Having Dr. Joel Potash as my father was always like having a rock star or a celebrity as a father. I grew up in a small town of Casanova, New York, where my father and his friend Norman Lipton had the only medical practice in town. So he was the family doctor in my small town for 11 years. Everybody knows him and everybody loves him. During that time, he and Norman also went to an even smaller town of Morrisville, where they held a medical clinic. Now, I just recently learned that he would perform vasectomies for poor farmers in the area for free. He had never been trained in this operation. It was not allowed at the time without a psychiatric evaluation. So he learned the technique from a textbook. I always knew that he would also do home births when they were not legal, and he supported lay midwives when they were not approved for childbirth options. So my dad has always been a radical. But despite his rebellious medical practices, he did receive the New York State Academy of Family Physicians Doctor of the Year Award in 1993. My dad also became the doctor for the Onondaga Nation, where his empathetic nature caused him to be welcome, and he discovered there, I'm sure, his love of all things Native American, and I think that's when he started sporting his ponytail. My dad also taught medical ethics, and I sincerely hope that his strong desire for justice and the opinion that all patients should be treated respectfully have been imparted to generations of doctors that learned from him. I sadly admit that I've always been disappointed in doctors that I've had. I've never found one that seemed as caring or as involved as my father was for his patients. In the last 11 years of his career, my father worked with hospice. And up until the pandemic, he also volunteered at a clinic at the Assumption Church, providing medical care and supplies for uninsured people. So, from home births until hospice care, my dad brought many, many children into the world, and he helped many people to leave the world with dignity. And then he did everything in between. On a personal level, he was with me in my long labor with my first son as I attempted to give a home birth. He helped his own mother, he helped his wife's mother, and recently he helped Leslie, his daughter, in their deaths, tending to them with humor and with patience and with very thoughtful medical care. As he ages, he continues to make house calls to his own close friends as they encounter health challenges in their older years. If I was asked to choose an image that would represent my father, it would be a tree, maybe an oak tree, something that is large and strong, that's branches are housing nests, that's providing shade, that's always reaching up towards the sun, and supporting life all around it in so many ways. Support. That's what my father offers without hesitation to anyone in need. I am so glad that you have recognized him with this award. Thank you.
She stole my speech. Good evening. I'm really grateful for the honor of being named Distinguished Alumnus of our distinguished high school. And I'm especially happy to have with me here my wife, Sandy Hurd, my beautiful daughter, Rachel, my brother, Matt, who's class of what, Matt?
48. No, 46.
Class of 48?
46.
46. He's getting older as he gets younger. My friend Merrill Novick, who was my next door neighbor on Wiedemo Street, and my newer friends Cheryl Lipton and Jessica Pierce. You can read about my accomplishments in the alumni paper. I think they're exaggerated, but that's okay. I suspect that there are other members in my class and other classes who are just as worthy of this award. Most of us just go about our job, trying to do the best that we can to try to help people, not expecting or even looking for awards. I'm the third son of immigrants who came to the United States in the first decade of the 1900s. My mother came from Belarus, the city of Minsk, and my father came from Jędrzej, a small village outside of Warsaw in Poland. If you go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., when you leave, there's a glass panel hanging down from the wall. On that glass panel are the names of all the cities and towns that no longer exist because the Nazis wiped them out. That's where I found Yenjif after years of searching. My parents came here as children because their families wanted to escape oppression, but also because they had hopes for a better life. They very much loved America. My father probably just went through the 6th grade before he needed to go to work to help support his family. My mother, her sister, and her brother all were college graduates. Now we're talking the 20s. That's pretty unusual. While my mother valued education so much, my dad never bothered to even worry about what my grades were when I brought my report card home. It didn't matter to him because he knew that my mom was taking care of me. Just before the Depression, my dad and mom moved to Fall River. My dad got a job in a curtain factory. All three of us, all the boys, were born in Fall River. We all went to the Dubuque Elementary School and mostly had the same teachers. So when I went, they would always remind me about what Matt did and what Bob did. Bob and Matt went to the Davis School, and I went to Morton Junior High School because I had moved up to the Highlands area in the 6th grade. After school every day and in the summers, we went and worked at my dad's factory. We're probably the only men, other than my father, and scores of women who were running sewing machines. I remember World War II when my dad made blackout curtains. And when the street lights in Fall River were painted half in black to hide the light from coming down because we were afraid that we might be invaded, and fortunately we weren't. Durfee did very well by us. Matt went on to Brown, Bob went to Providence College, and I went to Dartmouth. The reason I chose Dartmouth was because it was the least expensive college I applied to. For $1,200 I got room and tuition. I had a $500 Charles V. Carroll scholarship from Durfee, which I paid back as soon as I got my first checks from employment. I worked in the cafeteria at Dartmouth, and so I got my food. And semesters when I wasn't working, I had $2 a day to provide all the food for that day. The other reason I chose Dartmouth was I could hitchhike from Fall River to Hanover, New Hampshire. Hitchhiking wasn't as dangerous, I guess, in the 50s as it is now. And I'm actually surprised that my parents let me do it. At Dartmouth, I was a pre-med, but I majored in English. Science was always difficult for me, and my lowest grades were always in the science courses. At Dartmouth, like at Durfee, I benefited from personal attention of my teachers and from the advice that they gave me that would be very helpful. In my junior year in college, I applied to medical school because I was running out of money, and I thought if I could skip a year of college, that would be very helpful. But I didn't get in, I got waitlisted, and had to wait till I graduated from Dartmouth to go to Boston University School of Medicine. BU brought me closer to home, and there also was a great theater in Boston. In those days, all Broadway shows made a pass through Boston. And so, lots of times when I should have been studying, I think I was going to see plays. And once I took my medical textbook and sat in the Christian Science Monitor reading room, which is right next to the Schubert Theater, and got thrown out because medical textbooks wasn't what they wanted you to read, and they suggested that I learn something more about Mary Baker Eddy. Medical school was very hard, especially the first 2 years. I actually flunked 2 courses, physiology and pharmacology, and I had to go to summer school twice. The second time I failed a course, I decided to quit medical school. I called Indiana University and gained admission to the School of Literary Criticism on a full scholarship. But then my mom and dad came to Boston, and they dragged me into the dean's office. The dean then, Lamar Seward, seemed unconcerned about my failures. He told me I could stop flunking courses anytime I felt like it. I stayed at BU, a good choice, and I flourished in the last 2 years, which was spent mostly on the hospital wards with real patients. At that time, you could do 1 year of postgraduate training and go out and practice medicine as a general practitioner, or GP. There weren't a lot of specialists in Fall River at the time. Often, if you wanted to see a specialist, you had to go to Providence. My doctor was Dr. Harry Cooperstein on North Main Street, and his daughter Nancy Cooperstein Charlie got the Distinguished Alumnus Award a couple of years ago. I remember once the doctor came to my house because I was having a lot of pain in my stomach. And the doctor thought I might have appendicitis, and he recommended that I go to the hospital. My father was worried about me, but he was also worried about what it would cost to go to the hospital. I thought in those days, very few people had health insurance. So my doctor listened to my father and let me stay at home. And my father promised if the pain got worse, and if I developed a fever, he would take me to the Truesdale Hospital. Fortunately, in the morning, I was fine. At BU, the hospital were always tertiary care hospitals. That means they took care of the really difficult cases and specific to many specialties. I would read the charts, and often I'd see a note that the doctor thought that the patient's poor condition was related to the fact that his LMD, local medical doctor, another sort of derogatory term for general practitioner, was the cause of their being there because of poor care. That made me even more sure that I wanted to be a GP and to prove that specialists were wrong. I ended up serving an internship at St. Joseph's Hospital in Syracuse. I went there because my best friend in medical school was a cold weather nut. Syracuse had the most winter days with a temperature below 32 degrees and had the steepest roof, which meant the most snow, and also the best salary, which was $3,000 plus free housing. Meanwhile, Vietnam was brewing. My brother Matt had attended Brown under the newly formed Naval Reserve Officers Training Corps, and when he graduated, career happened, so he was on his way to career. Matt will still to this day minimize whatever risk he was in, but he commanded a landing craft that was involved in other missions, and especially in the landing and invasion at Incheon. His service in the Army made my mom really anxious, waiting for those letters to come through the Naval Post Office in San Diego, and sometimes it would take a month or more. So she wanted to get me out of having to be drafted. At that time, Representative Joe Martin was Speaker of the House, so she wanted to contact him and see if I could get deferred. I ditched my mother's plan because I believed, like they did, that this country was doing something for us and that I needed to pay them back. So I never sought deferment. After I finished 1 year of internship, I was drafted into the Army as a captain and was assigned to a station in Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas, at the outpatient department, and I got a salary of $12,000, free off-base housing, and heated swimming pool, and my beautiful daughter was born there. While in the Army, a new specialty of medicine was developed called family practice. There were 6 programs that were on a pilot program at that time, and one of them was at St. Joseph's Hospital in Syracuse. After completing 2 years in the Army, I went back to Syracuse to become a family practice resident. One day, I was traveling with my cardiologist teacher to Norwich, New York, where he ran a weekly heart clinic. We passed this beautiful community with a gorgeous lake, and I said, boy, that would be a nice place to practice. He said, no way. No Jews are welcome there. Once again, that's all I needed to hear, and I decided that's where I'm going to practice. At that time, the Sears Roebuck Foundation was traveling around the country trying to get citizens involved in bringing doctors to their community. So they would offer plans for a modern medical building and help in fundraising. Casanova was in discussion with Sears Roebuck, and I entered into the planning stages. The community was very supportive. They raised the money, they built the building, and I began my family practice. And as Rachel told you, I delivered babies and cared for family members of all ages. Casanova had a wealthy population, but also a poor population of small farmers. House calls were common. Most families only had one car, and the working person was off with that car. So if someone got sick, there was no way to come in, and you went out to see them. I even on rare occasion had to drive a pregnant patient in labor to the hospital. And once I had to deliver one in the back of my car. At some point, pregnant patients cared for by lay midwives, which was not legal in New York, came to me, to my office, to seek me backup care for me. So in case something happened and they needed to go to the hospital, they would have a doctor who would show up instead of the emergency room doctors deriding them for seeking midwifery care. I studied the meager literature on home births and found that the incidence of complication was lower than the incidence of complications in hospital births. So, not only did I back up the midwives, but I started doing some home births myself. Actually, Rachel asked me if I would deliver her first child in Hyannis. I lived in Syracuse, New York, and I was trying to figure out how that would work. And I did make it in time for the labor, but I told her she needed to get her own midwife. The cost of an office visit at that time was $5, and it remained $5 for the 11 years that I was in practice in Casanova. When I started to practice, the cost of insurance was only $75, and now it's more like, for a family physician, $10,000. Rachel told you that I started doing vasectomies. Once a poor farmer came to me requesting a vasectomy. He had a large family and trouble making a living raising his few cattle. Rachel told you that if you wanted to have a vasectomy, you had to have a psychiatrist say that you were depressed and might be suicidal, and that would be the reason for you to perform the vasectomy, because that person could not tolerate another member being born into the family. So we did read a textbook, and we told the patient that he was going to be our first vasectomy patient, and he was very happy because he didn't want to pretend that he was depressed or suicidal, and he couldn't afford to see a psychiatrist, nor could he afford to be hospitalized. When you practice in a small community or even in a city, I believe you have some obligation to involve yourself in community health matters. And now I have to find my place. So I volunteered in area health planning organizations where I learned about grants to promote health care. I read about a new profession called physician's assistant, which attracted former Army medics. So the medics who came out of Korea, who came out of Vietnam, had all this wonderful training and skill, and they got further education, and they could then go out and work and provide medical care. So I applied for a grant from the Regional Medical Program to hire 2 physician assistants to set up an independent practice in a small community called Georgetown, New York. And I got a $50,000 grant with the and they also gave me a community organizer and a public relations person. The citizens of Georgetown took an old dairy building that was vacant, and they fixed it up into an office, and there was a house next door, and they provided housing for the 2 physician's assistants. And we used the Kentucky Frontier Nurses Manual to define which patients the PA could see by themselves and which patients needed to see me either in my office or I would come out the following morning to see those kinds of patients. Currently, the AMA, the American Medical Association, is fighting against nurse practitioners and fighting against physician's assistants being able to practice in an independent practice. The AMA has even said that if you're a nurse and you go on in your education and you get a PhD, you can't call yourself a doctor. And that, of course, is ridiculous. I believe that health professionals should be allowed to practice according to their education, training, and their competency. I remember in the early days as a family doc, specialists would object to my delivering babies, because I wasn't an obstetrician, or sewing up lacerations, because I wasn't a surgeon, and so on. So why would I want to behave that way to other health professionals? In the late 1970s, during a difficult time in my first marriage, I left my practice of Casanova to join the State of New York Upstate Medical University's newly funded and state-mandated Department of Family Medicine. I had was in a group practice. I taught at the medical school, and I taught in the family practice residency at St. Joseph's. Family doctors could not admit patients to the university hospital. So when our patients got sick, we had to go to St. Joseph's. In 1987, I took a sabbatical in the Department of Religion at the University of Virginia to study medical ethics, which was in its early stages. While I was there, an opening at Hospice of Central New York as medical director opened up. I returned to Syracuse, where I became chair of the ethics committee at St. Joseph's Hospital and began to do ethics consultations there. A half day a week, which was my half day off, I spent in my position as medical director of hospice. But the needs for this position grew, and at some point I had to leave the medical school and devote myself to hospice, and then use my half day to work with the indigenous people of the Onondaga Nation, part of the Iroquois Confederacy of Indigenous People. After 11 years at hospice, I retired at age 65. Then the medical school hired me back as chair of their ethics committee and to do ethics consultations, and I finally was able to see patients in University Hospital and write notes in the chart. As I look back, the highlights of my career have been my involvement in childbirth, and I wonder if I really should have been a midwife, providing care to the terminally ill in hospice, and being part of the development of the field of medical ethics. But mostly, as a family doctor, you become part of the families that you treat, in a way. So for the many families I treated over several generations who trusted me with their stories and care. I read a lot about physician burnout these days, and I wonder why doctors are so unhappy. It's really the patients who count, not just their medical problems. What a wonderful way to make a living. Now, here's what I'm leaving you all with, some questions that I probably should have talked about. Why is medical care in the United States not a right, as it is in other highly developed countries? Why is medical care in the United States the most expensive, but not the best among other countries? If you get sick today, will your doctor see you? Can you get a timely referral to a specialist? Does your doctor's group have evening hours or weekend hours? If you go to the emergency room, how long do you have to wait before you get seen? Why aren't there enough primary doctors to take care of our population's needs? So, what's more important in medicine, profit or patient care? Thank you for coming to the celebration.
As our annual meeting draws to a close, we'd like to join the orchestra in the singing of Old Lang Syne and Alma Mater. very much, Judith, and our orchestra led by Nicole Turgeon. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to end our annual meeting. And a second? All in favor? Thank you very much. That'll end our annual meeting. Please allow our scholarship award winners and our distinguished alumni candidates to exit the auditorium first.